Welcome to Revolutionize Your Retirement Radio, bringing you insights and strategies to help you create a magnificent and fulfilling second half of life. Here's your host, certified professional retirement coach and best-selling author, Dr. Dorian Mintzer.
I want to welcome everybody to my fourth Tuesday Revolutionize Your Retirement Interview with Expert series. I'm Dorian Mintzer, your host and also owner of RevolutionizeRetirement.com. Dana Steinova travels the world training memory trainers. She's based in Prague. She's a specialist in organizing educational activities, and she's also a very active Secretary General of the European Federation of Older People, which is called EURAG, which was created in 1962 with 156 member associations in 33 European countries. And she's also multiple country liaisons for the Pass It On Network, which I think many of you have heard about, and it was co-founded by Jan Hively and Maura Allen. She holds degrees from the Institute of Enlightenment, the Economics University, and the Charles University in Prague. She has, over the past 30 years, initiated a wide variety of programs, including the U3A, which is the University of the Third Age movement in the Czech Republic, which began in 1986, and reciprocal senior student exchanges with more than 42 exchanges. She's fascinated by neuroscience and has been deeply involved with memory training since 1993. She founded the Czech Society for Memory Training and Brain Jogging in 1998 and later, the EURAG Memory Training Center in Prague in 2002, and the objective of it was making training opportunities available worldwide. Since then, she's traveled the world extensively to achieve this objective. She organized the first National Day of Memory Training as a part of Brain Awareness Week, and the worldwide event launched in 2005 by the Dana Alliance of the Brain and takes place in March every year. In 2008, it became the National Week of Memory Training and has been growing ever since. In 2016, there were 309 free lectures throughout the Czech and Slovak Republic, attended by 7,781 people. So I think we're in for a treat to learn about Dana and memory training. So maybe we could start, Dana, with just your sense of telling us where you were born and into what kind of family and how that's influenced you doing memory training.
Now I am hesitant if I should say good afternoon or good evening, because it is already darkness here in Prague. We are after 6 p.m. So welcome everybody. I was born which is in northern Bohemia, and I grew up as the only child till I was 7 when my little sister was born. And practically without any children around, because I lived in the poultry farm where my father was a director of. And so I went through schooling, and then I had children. And when I reached the age of 33, after given the birth to the fifth child, I decided that I should do something like useful for the mankind. That's a strong feeling of doing something useful, important. And so I founded the Club for the Active Elderly in 1983, and then gradually initiated the University of the Third Age. And in 1993, I was acquainted to memory training by Arlette van Assel, a Belgian psychologist whom I met at the European Symposium on Memory Training in Switzerland. And it somehow, how life sometimes depends upon just chances. So it changed my life, because I immediately became like addicted to memory training, because it was so miraculous. And I have never stopped ever since. So it is where I am now, and I am going around the world giving the courses for memory trainers, and the very last one happened in September in India. I went there with a colleague of mine, a member of our lecturing team, a neurologist, professor of neurology, Professor Pavel Kalvach, and the course was given in Tiruchirappalli in the state Tamil Nadu in southern India at the University of Bharat-Hidasan.
You do travel a lot. How often do you get back to Prague?
I do get back every October, the beginning of October, because the school year in the Center of Lifelong Learning starts, and I have over 3,000 students there, and it is a big responsibility to look after that every time there is a lecturer. And the center is quite unique because there are 12 basic subjects, but besides that also 30 additional programs and in the Club of Mutual Understanding. And I am giving the opportunity to my students who possess special potential, who possess special skills and talents, and they can share them with their peers, with their colleague classmates, and give classes to them. In this respect, there are 30 different classes like language classes or physical training or tourist club, dancing club, choir, singing choir, or ladies club with the fashion designer, or painting club with the academic painter. Actually, people who are searching to establish a new lifestyle. So they are getting an ideal chance to do it. And just 2 days ago, I met a lady who returned to the country after 37 years living abroad, who speaks 7 languages, and she was just so keen to do something. So I immediately gave her a chance.
That's wonderful. And what you're highlighting, and I think it's something for people, I know there are people calling and listening from around the world, but I know here in the States, there are a lot of lifelong learning programs, and becoming a memory trainer can lend itself to perhaps providing courses through some of the, whether it be Osher lifelong learning or the other lifelong learning programs around the country. So keep that in mind. Do you have other favorite activities other than memory? I wanted to ask that before we...
I think that nowadays memory is a passion for me, or obsession, or something like that. But I do like to travel, and what I have made available for my students who couldn't travel for decades, and who were actually confined to this East territory, so that we started to travel after the Velvet Revolution on the basis of reciprocal exchanges. And the very first exchange took place with the United States, actually with Boston area. And after that, we went around the world on the basis of exchange. We had 4 exchanges with Australian universities of the Third Age, with New Zealand, Canada, McGill Institute for Learning in Retirement, or Harvard Institute for Learning in Retirement in Cambridge, and several universities of the Third Age in South Africa, and many European countries. And the very last exchange was actually in 2011 with Australia, and then several years we couldn't get an exchange partner, but thanks to that global alliance that is called Pass It On Network, this is again coming into the life, and we are getting 3 exchanges next year with Mauritius, the island in the ocean, with the local U3A, and then with Danish seniors from Denmark, and with U3A from Ljubljana, Slovenia. So we are very much looking forward to that.
That is wonderful. And what's so beautiful is that, in a way, you've taken your passion about memory and travel, and you're making it work for you. You're a wonderful
I am trying to combine it. You are right.
Yeah,
I am
wonderful.
I am trying to give memory training wherever I go, and I just came back from Paris, France, where I was giving workshop to the French seniors, and they liked it so much that they invited me again to come back. So I'm enjoying it. It is not a work for me. It is a great joy.
That is wonderful. And I do want to just apologize. I have a cold, and so I cannot mute myself because I need to be part of this conversation. So I apologize ahead of time if you hear some sneezes and coughs, and I'm trying my best to keep it to a minimum. But so why don't you tell people who are listening what memory training is all about?
Yeah, it's a good question because people usually, they have doubts about the quality of their memory as they age, and they start to worry actually. They start to observe themselves, and it is even making it worse. And so I would like to calm the listeners down and tell them that if they observe such memory lapses when we are going to collect something from the refrigerator and when we open the door, we don't know what we wanted. Or if they are running around the apartment searching for glasses, mobile phones, or keys, and they need the second mobile phone to ring up the first one to find it. So they don't have to worry too much because it does not refer to deterioration of our memory. It is only what I can say a lack of self-discipline, because we are actually not thinking what we are doing. We have the tendency to do things mechanically, automatically, as a routine, and that we are punished that we can't remember. So we just atone for that we are letting our mind think about, run in different directions and think about what was going on yesterday, about some argument, or what we will be doing today, this afternoon, what we have to buy, whom we have to meet, and just planning things. Our mind is actually occupied with the past or with the future, but the present activity is not there. So we have to realize that if we are not doing things consciously, that there is no way to remember what we are doing. There is an easy advice. We just decide that the glasses that we usually can't find, that we don't throw the glasses anywhere where we are just standing, but we will wake up and say, oh, the glasses belong to that basket where they live. And you consciously take the glasses and bring them back to the basket, and you will be rewarded for that you will find your glasses every time when you need them. The same applies to mobile phones or keys. And maybe there is something that worries us even more. We start to think if we have locked the door, or if we have unplugged the iron, or such things, we are already away from home, sitting in the car, being 20 kilometers far away from our home, and then it worries us so much that we have to turn the car in the opposite direction and go back to check up on it. I highly recommend when you lock the door next time that you just repeat 3 times out loud. I am locking the door. I am locking the door. I am locking the door. What might happen that the neighbor comes out and looks what is going on. But you just explained that you are into memory training now, practicing. And what happens if you want to pronounce that sentence 3 times, you have to set up the facial muscles in order to pronounce these sentences. And at the same time, you trigger the language center in your brain, and there is no more room for any other thoughts. So in addition to it, you will hear your own voice 20 minutes later when you start to think if you have locked the door or not.
I think that's a wonderful technique, and I have been finding myself using that, as well as putting things in specific places. And when I don't, that's when I get into trouble. Because you mentioned something, and it seems to me that the level of distractibility seems to increase as we get older. Is that true, or is it just me?
The level of
the level of being distracted, like you were saying before, thinking about 20 million things. Yeah.
I must say that the sound is not too clear, so I can somehow hear every second word. Yes, so thank you. So yes, yes. Or not. It is not so easy because it is what we usually believe, that the ability to concentrate is decreasing with age. In reality, it is a matter of the wall that protects us against any interference from the outside that we are having around when we are young. We are able to multitask when we are young. Nothing can distract us, and you know it when you call your own son to come for lunch. He doesn't hear. He simply is so much immersed in the activity that he is just doing. And as we get older, the trouble is that the wall around us is getting thinner, and we are no more able to somehow to bounce off or to not to get distracted by the interference, the other sounds that are coming to us, the other information that we actually don't need. And then the result is that remember less from what we want to remember, and we remember more from what we don't need to remember.
That is very interesting. So is that considered, or can you explain, is that part of what's the working memory?
It is just a part of that ability to concentrate. What is the working memory? It is actually a part of that short-term memory, and I think that it would be useful to explain that we are getting information from the outside world via senses. And everything is coming into sensory memory, which has a huge capacity, but doesn't hold the information for too long. And then as only most of that amount is falling out within seconds, and just a tiny fragment of this amount is moving to the next stage, which is called short-term memory. And unfortunately, the nature equipped us with very limited capacity of the short-term memory. It means between 5 and 9 bits of information within one input. And as the information is coming from the sensory memory to the short-term memory, it has the tendency to empty itself quickly because it can't do otherwise. There is no room for, there must be a room for the new oncoming information. So that's why it is such a quick procedure. And are in a danger that we will lose that information because that short-term memory is very vulnerable. And what we are actually doing against that, not to lose it, when we are manipulating with the information, it is when we are referring to the working memory. We are working with the information. And it is actually it is what memory training is about. We are trying to convert the information, to alter it in such a type of information that it will be easily digestible for our brain, that our brain would be willing to cooperate.
Can you give an example of, I know from my own involvement with you, Dana, about the use of the mnemonics, and I think it would be so interesting to explain.
I will. Okay. So I do know what is also very important to tell to the listeners, that actually the human brain during the evolution has been equipped or has been developed in that way that it is responsible for our survival if we are in the peril of our life. So the brain knows it is its basic mission, and it knows that it can't let itself to be to be overloaded. And that's why brain is reluctant to absorb too much of information. And it is what we are fighting all the time with, because, if the brain doesn't want, so what to do? And there is fortunately one exception, when even the brain that doesn't want, and the brain as it is getting older, is less willing to show its plasticity. So it means to change itself, to rewire itself as a response to the outside. And the brain actually, as it gets older, it is showing, is not interested in the information. And it is because our brain thinks that it knows everything, that we have got during the life so much that nothing can surprise us. But when we are able to alter the information in something attractive, even this aging brain is no more able to resist. And it eagerly starts to cooperate and starts to digest that information, process that information very willingly. And it is actually the subject of memory training. We are searching for the ways how to coax our brain into cooperation.
Sort of
so
discipline
you wanted an example. You wanted
yeah,
an
I did,
example.
but I just wanted to say it's like training your brain, in a sense, to focus on what's most important, it sounds like. For the task, I meant.
Yeah. I don't want to disappoint you, but even if something is very important, so I don't think that it is a motivation strong enough for our brain. Our brain likes to play with something new, to be surprised, to be attracted to something. It behaves actually as a small child that is searching for new information, just to learn something new, if it is worthwhile to be learned. So not everything is classified to be processed, because when it is too important, but also too petty, too normal, too ordinary, the brain doesn't go for that. And it is what you have to keep in your mind. So the mnemonics, the memory aids, are actually about trying to alter the information in something very attractive, but very simple. The mnemonics are very simple. The geniusity of mnemonics depends upon the simplicity. So it means that when you learn once how to do it, it's so easy and it is so mechanical. You don't need any special education, previous education. And even people with very low education can use mnemonics for their benefit and somehow be astonished that they will feel almost genius. Anyone will feel almost genius when he or she starts to learn mnemonics, because we are able to surprise not only ourselves but also everyone around us, because we can remember something that the others consider that it is impossible to remember. So I will give you that example that you asked for, a very simple one which I like to use, because it was a lady in my class who could not remember the name of the dog that belonged to the neighbors, and she was really unhappy. She even was thinking that it was already an onset of some sort of dementia in her case, and the name of that dog was Antis, quite unusual. Antis. I have never heard that name. She has never heard that name, and so we started to think about how to make it more attractive for her brain. So we said that we could call him an anti-Soviet dog. Anti-Soviet dog. It is such a nonsense. I have never seen an anti-Soviet dog, neither did she. But it was so good that she immediately remembered it, and all the people in my classes remembered the name of that dog 3 years later.
Yeah, that's a great example. Can you give some other examples? And it occurs to me that maybe not everybody on the call really knows what mnemonics is. Your example illustrates it, but but it might be helpful to just
I will
help people
explain
know
what
it's
it
about.
means. Mnemonics are actually, it is nothing new. They have been around for several thousand years. They origin in antiquity in the ancient Greece. And do you want me to show something, to do something with the listeners, like that they could try something themselves?
Sure.
Do we have the time?
We do.
All right. So I will take you through the basic mnemonic that is called loci, which is actually plural from locus, means place in Latin. And I will refer to the recent event, what was going on this past summer in Rio de Janeiro, the Summer Olympic Games. And the athletes are supposed to pass 10 disciplines within 2 days. It is called decathlon. And I have never met anyone who would really remember the sequence of these 10 disciplines. This is such a good example because people who learn this technique, they can remember these 10 disciplines within 5 minutes. And they don't feel that it cost them any energy. They only have the impression that it was a great fun. So this technique, loci, is connected with good knowledge of a space. And so it means space like your own apartment or the route to your work that you are taking every day, or the best space that you are carrying all the time around is actually your body. So we can use our bodies to place these 10 disciplines on it, and then we will go back and you will just pick them up and you will know the sequence of these 10 disciplines quite easily and quite quickly. So the very first discipline is 100-meter sprint. Please get up and start to sprint until your soles are getting warm. So sprint will be connected with your soles, or we are placing it on that spot on our body. And the second discipline is long jump. So please try to stretch your calf. And so it is when we are actually, it is the discipline when long jump is when we are stretching our muscles, our calf. So the next discipline, I will let you guess, even if I will not hear you, I am sure that you will recognize what it means. Please try to hold your knee. What do you feel except your knee? Yes, it is that shot put or Einshot, or how do you call it? Yes, can you feel it? Quite easily, yes. And now try to lift your leg even more and stretch this your thigh, and it is, what discipline is this? Yes, exactly. High jump, nothing else. And then put your hands on your hips and try to sway from one side to the other, because you will definitely exercise your hips when you run 400 meters. So the first day is over. Can we repeat it? So the very first discipline, Dori, what was the first discipline?
The 100-meter sprint.
Yes, exactly. And then when we stretched the calf,
the long jump. Yeah.
It was a long jump, yes. And the knee, can you hold, can you feel it? What is that?
Shot put.
Yes, shot put, exactly. And when we lifted our leg, our thigh, as much as we could, it was
the
high jump. High jump, exactly. And when we put our hands on our hips and we sway from one side to the other, it was when we ran 400 meters. So the first day is over, and now we go to the second day. Please put your palms on your breasts. And you have to imagine 1 and 1 on each breast, because it is important. It is 110 meters. And as you see, it is a good example of hurdles. Yeah, hurdles, jumping over the fences. And please move your hand on your shoulder and hold it, protect it, because your shoulder could get dislocated with the next discipline, because it is discus. The next discipline is discus. And now we are coming up to our neck. Hold your neck, because now it is very dangerous. We could get seriously injured, because this discipline is called pole vault.
Oh, the pole vault, yeah.
Yeah. And we still have javelin. So javelin we just place into our hair on the top of our head. And it can rest there. And now please lift your arms as much as you can, because now we are so tired after those 2 days, but we still have to run 1,500 meters. And now we will repeat the second day. So put your palms on your breasts and imagine again that 1 and 1, 110 meters, hurdles. And we are moving to our shoulder. And we have to protect it, not to dislocate it when we are throwing the discus.
Yeah.
And then hands or palms on our neck. That is the dangerous discipline, pole vault. And then javelin on the top of our head in our hair. And the very last discipline is when we lift our arms as much as we can, because we got enough above our head, but we still have to run 1,500 meters. And now, under normal circumstances, I would give you a time to write down all 10 disciplines in correct order. And I have no doubt that everyone could do it. And the best of it is that it was usually people say it was a great fun, and it really didn't cost us any energy, and we do remember it. And it is only a very simple example how mnemonics work, because with mnemonics you can remember almost anything. What you need to remember, the secret is to turn it into something attractive, because then your brain is willing to cooperate.
This is where the confidence kind of building comes from, it sounds to. If you've not been feeling like you could remember things, and suddenly to see that you can do this, it seems like it's such a wonderful example of how to help people begin to feel more confident about that their brain is still functioning.
You are very right, Dori, because when you once convince them that they can remember, they will approach any new information with positive expectation that they will remember in the future, and it does affect the result. They really do remember better. And you can see how self-confident they are. You can see that self-esteem, and it is actually not only about the quality of memory, it is about the quality of life, because the people who are self-confident, they have somehow easier life, because the others, they don't dare to hurt them. Because it is like radiating from them, that self-confidence. And so it is very important for the quality of life to be self-confident.
And so it impacts both the cognitive as well as social.
Yes, it is. And when people can, how to say it? I have to laugh about it, because we are able to perform such great things that those who don't know the secret of mnemonics, they even think that it is something magic. When I perform calendar, how my people are having all the days of the year in their mind, that they can say immediately what day of the week is any day of the year in any age. If they are over 8, it doesn't matter. And the people who don't know what it is behind, they think it must be some magic. It can't be true. How comes? And it is only a very simple technique that was actually invented by one of our trainers. So we are so lucky having so many genius people around. And then all the people who are coming to our classes can benefit from that.
So can you give an example, like with the calendar or the shopping list? I know you have so many wonderful examples, and I think it just may be helpful. And I do want to encourage people to send in questions if you have any that I can
have to tell you something.
Yeah.
After I was giving that course in India, I went immediately to Malta. And in Malta, there is based the United Nations Institute for Aging in Malta, and I have given a workshop in Malta for professionals and even people from this INEA, that UN Institute for Aging, came, and I performed there this calendar. And they just could not believe how it is possible that people can do something like that. And when I revealed the trick behind it, so they thought that mnemonics are just magic. And I will show you, I will explain to you, but I have to tell you one more thing. I got, immediately after I came back from India, I got an email that one attendee from our course taught it to her daughter, who was a school child. And the daughter taught the calendar to her teacher. And the teacher taught the calendar to all her co-teachers. And all the teachers at that school taught it to their children, to their students. And the result was that the whole southern India is now living with mnemonics. I thought that it was a great result of our course. So the calendar is pretty simple. You just learn what is the first day of the month. And for example, in January 2016, January the 1st was Friday. And then you have to develop some witty mnemonic that you will remember that in January it was Friday. For example, like to say, after the New Year's Eve, I always need a fried egg for breakfast or something like that. So New Year's Eve is after the New Year's Eve is January the 1st, clear enough. And fried eggs can't be anything else but Friday. And then you also immediately know that the 8th is again Friday, and the 15th, and the 22nd, and the 29th, always Friday. So when I ask you, what was this year the January 27th? So the answer is Wednesday.
Right.
Wednesday, because we know the 29th was Friday. Yeah, so we are actually only adding or deducting days. And the secret is to invent a smart, witty mnemonic, attractive mnemonic for every month. So you can do, every listener today can do it with the calendar for 2017, himself and herself, and impress not only, the family members, but everyone around, because it is also such a handy tool when you don't need external aid. When you don't need external aids, people who are attending the memory training classes are actually minimizing the usage of external memory aids. They can remember a shopping list of 150 items easily. They can remember telephone numbers. They can remember even long lines of digits. They can better remember faces and names. they can remember calendar. So it means that we are minimizing the memory lapses in daily life. But the most important is when we start to use mnemonics, we are actually exercising the half of the brain, the right hemisphere, that we are not using so much as we do our left hemisphere, because we are the products, most of us are the products of Western lifestyle. So it means that we are working on building the reserve brain capacity, which can in ideal case actually help us to compensate the impact of something devastating, brain injury or a stroke or some type of neurodegenerative disease. So in that case, our brain is able somehow to compensate these devastating impacts, and in ideal case we even don't recognize that we suffer from something nor do the others. So you see that it is worthwhile to try.
And it feeds on itself, it seems. If you discover that you can remember things like this, then you're not focusing so much on what you're not able to do, but more what you're able to do.
Yeah. Very correct. Very correct. Yes.
Can you give some other examples of, because I know, what are some of the ones that you found most helpful for, or are all of them equally helpful for people to begin to feel more confident? I know one of your things is having people learn the first 100 numbers of pi, or the 100, as you said, the 150 item shopping list. Can you give some sort of examples?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Yes, these are, you mentioned 100 digits of pi, and people who listen to this webinar start to wonder why those people need to know 100 digits of pi. They don't need it in their daily life. They don't. But the fact that they can perform 100 digits of pi in their 80s, and nobody else can do it, so it can actually trigger a huge admiration among the family members, among friends, because they can do something that the others consider that it is impossible to remember it. So it is what we call the therapy of pleasant shock. But people actually are coming up with their proposals, what to learn. And right now we are working on an amazing subject. We are updating the political map of the world, because it is something that people, when they went to school, the political map of the world looked differently. And many times they don't know, when on television they are listening to the news, they don't know which country it is and what the capital is and so on. So we are updating the map of single continents, and now we have done it already, actually, I have to say. And then we decided that we start to work on flags. And flags, it is something very discouraging. When you look at them, they look almost the same or very similar, or they are tiny. How to remember all these stripes and colors and stars? And it's such an adventure. We are having so much fun developing these mnemonics and learning some facts that are behind. So do you want some example?
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, so what came into my mind is the Danish flag. So the Danish flag is red and there is a white cross, but it is asymmetrical somehow. And the history of the Danish flag is actually that there was on June the 15th to 1219, there was a big battle by Linda-Nissau, which is nowadays called Tallinn in Estonia. And the King Valdemar was absolutely desperate because it looked like that the Danish will lose the battle. And he started to pray and the heaven opened, and the God sent them this flag. The the cross actually means that it was some white light that was sending them the flag, and the King Valdemar won the battle. And then all the flags of Scandinavian countries are actually based on the same cross. And Norway has a very similar cross, but there is in that white cross, there is also the blue color, because they were under the thumb of the Danes for a long time, but they inclined more to the Swedish. So the Swedish flag is blue, so that's why they are having also the blue color there. And then when it comes to Sweden, so there is the blue color and the yellow cross. So we said that they are playing a lot of hockey. The hockey field is blue, and the hockey, I don't know the word exactly, hockey clubs, or how do you call it? These are yellow in this case. In Sweden, they are allowed to play only with yellow hockey clubs, or hockey poles, or how do you call this? What we are? It doesn't matter. You know what I am talking about.
Yeah,
what they are holding in their hands.
Right.
Yeah, so they are yellow, and then so we have such stories with every flag. We have not done all of them, but it's so good, and we are so impressed with ourselves that we can recognize these flags, and that we are able to tell you the story that is behind them. For example, the Spanish flag, there is a red stripe on the top and red stripe down, and double yellow stripe in the middle. So they are watching corrida, the bloody entertainment in the morning and in the evening, and in between there is a lot of sun, so they are taking siesta. So we are always having some stories going with that, and it is always something that makes us laugh. Because when you are having fun, laughing, then you can remember it much better. It's just relaxing. It is not a hard work. You don't feel that you are developing an effort to remember something. No, you are just having fun, laughing.
So it sounds like part of the key is coming up with something that has meaning for you so that it will help you remember. So what would be to remember somebody's name? Can you give some examples of ways to...
Yeah, I can give you an example from, first of all, I have to say that it is not easy. Names and faces are the most difficult memory task ever. Because it looks like that the hemispheres are not cooperating in this case too efficiently, because a face is a pictorial task. It is processed by the right hemisphere, and name is a verbal item which is processed by the left hemisphere. But I can give you, so what we have to do actually is to find the dominant features on the face and try to link it with the name somehow. I was giving memory training class in Cape Town, South Africa. And after this exercise, I asked the first two people who were cooperating together, learning about each other, how to remember their names and faces, to explain to me how they could remember mutually the faces and the names of theirs. And I will never forget the man who was laughing, but he was laughing also together with the lady who was cooperating with him, because the name of the lady was Patricia Bassett. And I asked him, how could you possibly remember the name of that lady in the future? And he said, oh, it is so easy. But I must tell you that she brought my attention to her ears. That lady had extremely long earlobes. Really long, probably from heavy earrings. And so he said, how? It's impossible not to remember her name. Look at her ears. The earlobes, they really look like that dog that is called Bassett. And the lady advised him, actually. it requests a little bit of, how to say it, not to get embarrassed and not to feel that people are making fun of you. When you are working on this technique, you just have to reveal even the weak points, and everyone understands that. So the lady advised him that her ears were similar like those of the dog, that breed called Basset. And I said, yeah, oh, it's great. It's so witty. They were both laughing. Everyone was actually laughing when they revealed it. I was laughing. And I said, I still don't understand how you will remember that her name is Patricia. And she said, easily, I will pet her. So it is just the way how we are working with names and faces, but it requests already a little bit of practice because it's quite difficult. You have to work on it for a while.
And once you've learned something, how much practice does one need to keep doing to keep remembering?
Yeah, it is a good question. If you are able to develop a very attractive mnemonic, then it is almost impossible to forget it. But when you are referring, for example, to 100, the list of 100 Czech rulers from the year 623 AD, then it needs to go back maybe every 3 months to refresh that knowledge a little bit. But if you learn the list by heart, if you memorize it, then, and you don't get back to it every day, you would remember it within 1 week, easily. So you can see that it is much more durable to remember things with the help of mnemonics, because mnemonics are something like the rope on the edge of the abyss. You don't fall down. You are holding on, and you can easily recall it. But because that natural process of forgetting is taking place, so I highly recommend every 3 months to brush up somehow the information that you don't want to forget. You will not forget it. It will be when you come back after half a year or after 1 year to it, it will request much less time to learn it again, because it will be like relearning for you. But if you go back every 3 months, you will never forget it, and you can use it, and you can show off every time when you want to.
That's really helpful to be able to hear too. So maybe you could describe. Oh wait, So I do want to confirm that it is hockey sticks. So I was right. Eileen helped us with that. There is a question here. Oh, so she said, my kindergarten son came home with a knock-knock joke. Who is there? And the name was Eileen. And it's Eileen over, Eileen over, you kiss my ass. And that's how he remembers Eileen.
I see. Yeah. But the kids are spontaneously developing mnemonics, right. Or we are, all of us are developing mnemonics spontaneously all our life if they help us. But the art of mnemonics, the complicated mnemonics, it is good to use some invention that the smart people developed before we came into it.
So can you describe a little of what you do in a sort of a memory training workshop? It may be helpful for people to have a sense of that.
First of all, I do explain the basics about the brain, because people must understand, as I did today very briefly, because people must understand what we can expect from our brain, or what we are responsible for, or when actually it is not our fault that we don't remember, because nature has not pre-programmed us to remember in this respect. So it's very important for people to understand. And when it comes to mnemonics, then my intention is to convince them as quickly as possible that they can remember. So just the case of the last Friday when I was in Paris, And I said, what about to do numbers today? And I could see those disappointed faces. Oh, numbers, we don't want numbers. It's too difficult. I said, don't worry. We will start only with simple telephone numbers. So I taught them how to remember a 9-digit telephone number, and so it was okay. And then I said, what about 16-digit number? And they no, we won't be able to do it. And within 5 minutes, they got the proof that it was so easy. And then we still had 10 minutes, and I said, what about 25 digits? And they were already in it. And they said, yes, we would like to try it. And they made a 25-digit line, and they were so enthusiastic. They were so astonished. But they were not astonished from the fact that I was such a great memory trainer. They were so astonished with themselves that they were so good. And it is exactly what is actually the goal. My goal, it is what I have to achieve. I have to put into their hands the tangible proof of their potential, and I must make them experience that feeling of victory, because it is the most important. And it is when it comes to scientific research and going what it does with our brain and what it doesn't. So in this case, I don't put such an emphasis of whatever, how we are how we are changing our brain. I have a good feeling that within 20 minutes, I can see that people are enjoying that they are smart. They are starting to feel almost genius. And it is something that you can't buy in any shop for any money.
That's true. And I do remember being part of the training program that you had. There is this incredible, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy upward, because you suddenly realize there are ways to remember things. And you realize maybe that, all these people who win these shows and know so much, that they're probably using mnemonics too, I would think. Is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if you think that they are having some exceptional brains, they don't. They are simply having normal brains as we do, but they are just activating different parts of brain to achieve this enormous output. And because they know how to use mnemonics. Yeah. So it is what I said, that we are also activating the different parts of brain when we start to use mnemonics, and it is that additional benefit, that value that comes with mnemonics.
This has been, I'm aware of the time and we need to pull things together, but this has just been really wonderful to have you share about your work, really the excitement of how to help people become more confident of themselves, and whatever our age, I think, and trying to think about ways to help ourselves remember things. So first of all, would you give your website so people can know how they could learn more, connect with you, and also, we'll do that first, and then I'll do the end also.
Yeah, so there is a website, www.memorytraining. And the ending is info, not com,
info?
No, not okay. Info, yes, info.
Info, okay.
Yes. It is that short English version of the Czech website for memory training, for the Czech Society for Memory Training. And you find there also the course for memory trainers that will happen in Prague. But there will be also that course for trainers in Malta next year, and one will be in Mauritius. So it might be a possibility for you to travel if you want to explore the different parts of the world. And I didn't tell you that the Indians already came up with a request for all Indian course for memory trainers intended for professionals in September 2018. And they really want to make it the national course to help to Indian professionals to do more for the elderly in India. And I am quite proud of that.
Yeah. Yes, you should be. That's wonderful. Any plans in the upcoming future to be back in the States?
Yeah, I am getting requests from the States, so I think that the nearest future when I could come would be 2018 somehow to go in September to India and to go, for example, in the summer to the States. So I enjoyed being in the United States, giving the courses for trainers there, and it was such a delightful work because to work with native speakers, I can expand my horizons and my knowledge of English, and so it's really a lot of pleasure.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot of pleasure to do that. So I definitely would like to come in the future.
Great. And so could people, if they go to your website, you'll have postings of where you're offering some of the training?
Yes, it is posted there, and they can be in touch with me, and we can start to think about certain cooperation or whatever.
Great. Now, are there any final thought or takeaway you'd like to share as we close for today?
Yes. I would like to tell to everyone who listens to us that there is no reason to underestimate your own mental skills with some daily memory lapses that just happen to us, because if you once convince yourself that you can remember something, then you know that you really can remember, and then if something happens, some tiny little things, you will not become upset because of them. You will say, if I remember 100 digits of pi, I don't have to worry that I don't remember where I left my glasses. It is what I always do.
So it's that confidence building as you're talking about. But I also, going back full circle to the beginning when you said that it really is helpful to pick a specific place that you're going to leave specific things. So
definitely.
You get yourself disciplined to that my glasses go here, my keys go here, or whatever, my hat and gloves. And we all need to do that, and maybe more so as we get older. But I'm thinking about my son when he was little, and it was like needing him to learn where to put things so he could find them. Maybe we have to just do it throughout the whole life cycle.
May I say one last sentence? So
please do.
Please don't give up. Don't give up. Don't underestimate your own skills, because if you learn the right know-how, you will just be surprised how huge potential you still have. It applies to everyone.
That's wonderful. I do have one other question. Somebody just asked if you have any DVD packages of the course available, or are you planning to maybe have something where people maybe could purchase?
It was actually done during the research, because we went through 5 years of scientific research, and we have a CV about the whole course. Unfortunately, it is in Czech, and it has not been translated into English, so I am very sorry. We do have it, but only in Czech.
Only in Czech, okay. Maybe that's something that could happen.
It could be probably even translated. Yes.
Anna, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I know it's your dinner hour at home, and I just want to thank you very much. And everybody on the call will get a recording, and you will also get a recording. And I encourage everybody to check out Dana's website, www.memorytraining.info. Is that, where's the at though? Memory training.
Yes. Yeah.
So say the website again, Dana.
www.memorytraining.info. or there is if you can't get to it through the English version, so there is www.trénování paměti, which is in Czech, and .cz, and that you come to the same version because there is a flag and you just click on it. So shall I spell it? That Czech version? If you
probably that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So it is TRENOVANIPAMETI.cz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing yourself and your program, and I really can feel, and I know when I met you in person, the passion that you carry. And it is a confidence-building program to just help you recognize that we really can find ways to play with ourselves, the brain, and learn things and remember people's names and faces and shopping lists. It really is very empowering. I just want to thank you so much and encourage any of you on the call, if there's an opportunity that you can go to one of these programs. I think you'll find it helpful both for yourself, but also a wonderful skill to be able to work with other people, with elders, seniors, and contemporaries. So thank you again, Dana. And
thank you for inviting me, being your guest. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Revolutionize Your Retirement Radio with Dr. Dorian Mintzer. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show, listen to past episodes, or download our free retirement transition guide, visit revolutionizeyourretirementradio.com.